So this is 15 ISSS questions, or the International Society for the Systems Sciences, and 15 answers from the Meta Science of Ev Cult and the Meta Science of Systems Science. Here's some of my group memberships, the ISSS now, of course, thanks for having me, and some other ones there. Next. So an outline of this paper, we're going to go through these 15 questions here in this excellent PowerPoint slide deck Gary presented, systems as a concept and the concepts of systems science in 2022 on Vimeo. And so we'll have a look at 15 Ev Cult responses to those 15 questions. But first, let's have a quick look at this little teaching aid. This shows Ev Cult students the main features of a system. You've got your 5 main features: inputs, outputs, boundary, an algorithm or processor inside, and a larger ecosystem. But there's also smaller parts when you zoom in closer to smaller scales in a system, such as your alimentator, your receptor, your accumulator, the correlator, the effector, and then of course you've got your inputs, boundary, outputs, etc. This is just a little Excel spreadsheet you can download and have a play with. You press the button in the middle that's called Do It, and that will accept a new input into the system. So let's just watch that for a minute.
So we go over to the Do It button, and if we press that, the system just processed some information, and we can just keep pressing that button, and it's having outputs over here.
Yeah, so it's just a little tool that students can play with when they're learning Ev Cult. On the left hand side there, the inputs are the 100 most frequently used words in English. So the, of, etc. And it accepts one word at a time, and then it classifies those words. So for example, that word there is a preposition. So each time it has to classify each word into its word type, and it only knows 50 of the words. So when it encounters a new word that it doesn't know, it gets sad, but when it encounters a word that it already knows, it's happy. So a little an emotional little robot recognizer system there. It's called the Ev Cult Systematizer. It just teaches people the basics of how systems work with their inputs, processes, and outputs. Anyway, a bit of fun. So that's one way to teach the simple elements of systems. And so some ISSS history, of course. The first conference was in the 50s for systems science. That's in the textbook Elements of Ev Cult on page 150, that tree of culture there showing the dates when the first international conference for each domain was held. Anyway, there's a bit of ISSS history. And of course the mission statement of the ISSS from von Bertalanffy's general systems theory back in 1968, or back in the 50s previously. Everyone's pretty much familiar with that. Next. And so what is the meta science of Ev Cult? It's a universal scientific set of units, scale levels, the first 3 laws of the units, the evolutionary mechanisms that operate on those units, or fractal Holon partons, and over 100 scientific models in the textbook there. Each chapter has a different additional model in it. And that leads to the unity of science regarding Ed Wilson's concept of consilience in his book of the same name in 1998. So that's Ev Cult. That's all in the textbook, Elements of Ev Cult. And Ev Cult reduces all systems and units of culture, so letters, words, sentences, songs, movies, games, machines, languages, etc., to their simpler scientific structure and function, the fractal holon parton. And there's 3 diagrams. There's the units, the scale levels, and the 3 laws of fractal holon partons. Next. And there's the 3 laws lens down the bottom. That's how we go around identifying, finding and locating units of culture if you don't know what they are in the domain that you're working in or investigating. Next. And there's, so there's the blog. So you've got the book and the blog are the 2 main learning resources for evolutionary culturology. Next. And there's the first 3 laws of fractal holon partons: integrate upwards into a larger unit on the scale level above, and compete and cooperate sideways with units on the same scale level, and control and command downwards, inwards, on the units on the smaller scale level which are inside them. So that's all in the book, Elements of Ev Cult. Next. There's the 3 laws lens again for finding units of culture. Next. And there's the 3 scale levels of science. Down the bottom you have your individual sciences: quantum physics, classical physics, chemistry, astronomy, geology, biology, psychology, sociology, anthropology, and now also the arts and humanities. In the middle row there you have your meta sciences on a medium scale level, because they all apply to the individual sciences on the level below. So system science is in the middle row there on the left. That's a meta science. And the other meta sciences include computer science, information and communication science, creativity science, etc. And up top there, incorporating all of them, we have Ev Cult, because it reduces systems and units of culture to their simpler scientific structure, the fractal holon parton. Next. And that leads to consilience, the unity of all knowledge, as referenced in E.O. Wilson's 1998 book, Consilience, the Unity of Knowledge. So there you have the vertical integration of all the sciences, including the arts and humanities, right up the top there. And that leads to the Ev Cult worldview, showing the units on different scale levels there, about 30 scale levels there, from strings up through atoms, molecules, cells, tissues, organs, organism, like a person, up to country, nation, planet, solar system, galaxy, universe, multiverse. Next. So let's have a look at these 15 great questions Gary mentioned on system science. There they are there on that slide, and that great picture by Chris Chase there of systems. So let's look closer at these 15 questions. That's zoomed in to a closer scale level so we can actually read the text. Next. So looking at those 15 questions, what are the 15 answers Ev Cult brings? And by the way, each one of these questions you can put into any of the Ev Cult GPTs. So there's the URL down the bottom. Pick one of those if you're a subscriber to ChatGPT-4 and ask those questions, and we'll have a quick demonstration of that later on coming up in this presentation. So definitely worth trying all those 15 questions in any or all of those Ev Cult GPTs. Next. Question 1. How can we make a system science that is useful for doing stuff and learning stuff? See Ev Cult regarding the scale and level changes of the units. So there's your 3 scale levels. More on that in that book, Elements of Ev Cult. There's your 3 scale levels again. On the left in the middle there is system science, one of the meta sciences. Next. And there's a quick summary, Ev Cult in 6 sentences, or 6 units of culture, if the units are the sentence level. That's all on the Ev Cult blog and in the book, Elements of Ev Cult. Next. Question 2, is system science a meta-science? Affirmative, yes, see Ev Cult for why. There's those 3 scale levels of science, the individual sciences down the bottom, quantum physics, classical physics, chemistry, astronomy, geology, biology, psychology, sociology, anthropology. They're all the individual sciences. Moving up a level, we have the meta-sciences, each of which applies to the individual sciences, because you could look at any of those things, quantum physics, classical physics, etc., as systems, the units within them, whether it's solar systems or quarks, etc. Next. Yes, so affirmative, system science is definitely a meta-science, given that framework there. Next. Again, there's your 3 levels, and there's system science. So definitely a meta-science in those terms. Next. Oh, there it is again. Once again, there's system science. Some of the other meta-sciences are information and communication science, because all systems exchange information, which is communication. So from atoms to molecules to organisms to solar systems and galaxies, etc. So you can do information science or communication science, studying how the information is moving about in any of those individual sciences down the bottom, physics, chemistry, biology, sociology, etc. Next. What are the questions system science has to answer? One way is to look at the EthiSizer's list of global wicked problems in the EthiSizer novel here. That has a big list of global wicked problems, which system science is pretty much the way to address them. So there's a bit of a snapshot of a page of the EthiSizer's list of global wicked problems. Let's zoom in a bit closer. So there we go. Chapter 6, a list of global wicked problems. Some of them include science denial, human-caused global climate change, large-scale conflict and war, food and water security, poverty, religious conflicts, nuclear threats, threats from AI, biotech, etc. So these are problems that system science can solve, and Ev Cult too, obviously. Next. How do we recognize systems and why? Take a look at the tools of Ev Cult. You've got the systems lens, where you can go around looking for things that have those 5 key elements of a system: inputs, outputs, boundary, algorithm or processor inside, and a larger environment or ecosystem on the outside. Then you've got your 3 laws lens. You can just go around finding units by looking for things that obey the 3 laws. They integrate upwards into a larger unit, compete and cooperate with units on the same scale level, and command and control the smaller units which are inside them. So that's another way to recognize or identify systems, because both systems and units of culture are fractal holon partons. So use the 3 laws of fractal holon partons lens. And another way is just use the fractal holon parton lens itself, seeing those infinite fractal circles there. That's how the structure of it looks. Next. How do we know about different types of systems and their pathologies or analogous problem patterns? Well, again, see Ev Cult. You can ask an Ev Cult GPT, or you can ask the EthiSizer, or both. Here's a little demo. Got a question? Ask an Ev Cult GPT. Let's see a little demonstration. So if you go to the Ev Cult GPTs page on the Ev Cult blog, Go to the Ev Cult Tutor GPT, for example, and let's just put that question 5 straight in. In Ev Cult, what do we know about different types of systems and their pathologies or analogous problem patterns? There's the prompt. Let's see the response. In Ev Cult, systems and their pathology, etc., types of systems, physical, chemical, biological, etc. There's your system types. There's the 3 laws of fractal holon partons. There's pathologies of systems. And here's how to identify pathologies in different domains: biological systems, sociological systems, cultural systems, etc. So have a look at that. Put those questions into the Ev Cult GPT and you'll get some good answers back. Next. How do we choose appropriate system types to solve a problem? Again, see Ev Cult and ask an Ev Cult GPT. Next. On that URL there. What do we know and need to know about transforming systems? Again, see Ev Cult, ask one of the Ev Cult GPTs. There's the URL. Can we really define a systems science that is applicable to everything? That's what Ev Cult is, using the fractal holon parton approach. And again, ask the Ev Cult GPTs or ask the EthiSizer. You'll get a more extensive answer there than in this quick PowerPoint show. Next. There's the URL. How can we organise the body of knowledge of systems science? The GPTs are good with this again. So put that to one of them. You'll get a good answer back. Next. What is system stuff and how can this be organised? Again, see Ev Cult, see the fractal holon parton. Ask the Ev Cult GPTs. There's the 3 laws of fractal holon partons. So you can organise them that way. Next. So organising systems via fractal holon partons brings you to the Ev Cult worldview with all the different units on the different scale levels there. That's one way to organise them, of course. You can choose a domain and follow it up and down vertically on scale levels. That's just one way to slice it, one vertical slice. Next. How can we develop the body of knowledge of systems science? The ISSS does a great job of that anyway, including CBOC and everything, but worth asking Ev Cult and the Ev Cult GPTs. They have a few good ideas too and they can help you do it. Next. There's the URL. What tools can enable our system science practice? Again, ask an Ev Cult GPT. Next. There's the 3 laws lens. Next. What tools can enable? Well, again, see the textbooks, elements of Ev Cult. There's another one, a selection of empirical data, charts, tables and graphs from the meta-science of Ev Cult. Next. Ask an Ev Cult GPT for the quick answer. Next. What explanations and observations about the nature of the universe emerge? Again, that's one answer. You get the Ev Cult worldview using the 3 laws to determine the units on the scale levels and then see how they interact. Are they competing or cooperating or doing both, or does there need to be an intervention, etc.? Are there systems pathologies and so on? Next. Can it help to resolve the semantic mismatch or confusion or ambiguity between what is real and what we think is real in our models? Again, see Ev Cult, ask an Ev Cult GPT. It'll give you a good answer for that. And if it doesn't, you can just tell it to try again. Next. Can we get to grips with uncertainty and the fundamental limits to observational accuracy and precision? Ask an Ev Cult GPT, and this is also where the EthiSizer comes in. So ask the EthiSizer. Next. So that's a quick look through those 15 questions and 15 answers from Ev Cult. But here's an interesting question. What is those 15 ISSS questions like? What is that bank of questions isomorphic to? Here's one answer. Oh, by the way, what's an isomorphy? In case you're watching this and not familiar with systems science, there's a paper, 200 plus isomorphies in Ev Cult. You can read that on that URL and you'll be very clear on what an isomorphy is after seeing more than 200 examples. Next. Some isomorphies of those 15 ISSS questions. One of them is the Cultural Evolution Society in 2017. They published this in Nature, Grand Challenges for the Study of Cultural Evolution. So they did a survey of the Cultural Evolution Society members and got them to list what are the biggest problems we face, or unsolved problems or unanswered questions in our domain, cultural evolution science. So very similar. That's worth a look, that article or paper. Next. That was by Brewer and others in Nature in 2017. There was a questionnaire that went round before in 2015, and then that paper was the result of the survey of the members of the CES. Next. Another isomorphy of those 15 ISSS questions, great questions they are, would be Hilbert's 23 problems in mathematics. I don't know if you know David Hilbert. He was president of the Mathematical Society, and in one of their very first conferences he presented a list of unsolved problems for the mathematics field to solve. And over the next 100 years, if you go to that Wikipedia page, you'll see as and when they were solved, and often the solvers won a Fields Medal for it, you know, the equivalent of a Nobel Prize in mathematics. So yeah, that was the International Congress of Mathematicians. The first one was in 1897, and it was in 1900 that David Hilbert presented his 23 problems, and they've gone on to be a great hit list of problems for mathematicians to solve to advance the domain, advance knowledge. Next. Another isomorphy would have been Velikovsky's 24 problems in the movie screenwriting domain. In 2016, when I was doing my PhD, published that paper, 24 open problems in the movie screenwriting domain. It's worth a read. And the International Screenwriting Research Network had its first international conference in 2008, so that's a relatively young domain when you think that mathematics had its first conference in 1897, nearly 100 years, more than 100 years ago. Next. And speaking of isomorphies in general and problem solving in general, in this great book by Csikszentmihalyi, 1996, Creativity, the Psychology of Discovery and Invention. This is from the domain of creativity science. Here's a really great quote from that book, page 88, 89. I'll read it out. An intellectual problem is not restricted to a particular domain, whether it be maths or systems or cultural evolution. Indeed, some of the most creative breakthroughs occur when an idea that works well in one domain gets grafted to another and revitalizes it. This was certainly the case with the widespread applications of physics quantum theory to neighbouring disciplines like chemistry and astronomy. Creative people are ever alert to what people over the fence are doing. A large majority of our respondents, because there's nearly 100 people surveyed in that book there, a study that they did in the mid-90s, Csikszentmihalyi and Keith Sawyer and many others, interviewing and studying around 100 eminent creatives. So a large, including Ed Wilson, a large majority of our respondents were inspired by a tension in their domain that became obvious when looked at from the perspective of another domain. Even though they do not think of themselves as interdisciplinary, their best work bridges realms of ideas. Their histories tend to cast doubts on the wisdom of over-specialization, where bright young people are trained to become exclusive experts in one field or one domain and shun breadth like the plague. So that's one advantage of Ev Cult. It applies to all 50,000 plus domains in culture equally with the same set of units, levels, laws and mechanisms and models. Next. And there's the 8 stages of creative problem finding, which includes creative problem framing and creative problem solving from R. Keith Sawyer's great book explaining creativity, now in its 3rd edition. 2023 was the most recent one. There's a good little algorithm there for problem solving. In my case, the solution I've externalized is in that book, Elements of Ev Cult, and the blog, etc., and the Ev Cult GPTs. Next. So again, there's your 3 scale levels of science. Not sure why that's come up again, but maybe it's important. Next. There's creativity science. Sorry, that's why, because that quote that we just heard from Csikszentmihalyi was from creativity science. So again, that's a meta science. You can look at creative units, which are namely things that are new, useful and surprising in any domain. So physics, chemistry, geology, biology, psychology, sociology, anthropology. A creative unit is one that is judged new or original, useful or adaptive and effective, and surprising or non-obvious by its environment. Next. And speaking of creativity science, here's a brief Ev Cult, or part of an Ev Cult case study on the evolution of the systems model of creativity over time from 1988 through to 2018. Let's have a look at that. This is from a paper I gave at a Popper conference a few years ago. Here is my collection of diagrams that shows some of the cultural evolution or change over time of the systems model of creativity. 1988, it looked like that. 1999, it changed a bit. 2000, changes again. 2003, 2006, 2014, 2018, now with added AI. Thanks to computational creativity. And here's 2 of my variations of the model. Creative Practice Theory and Evolutionary Culturology's Fractal Systems Meta-Model of Biocultural Creativity. There's a blog page there where you can read more about all that. And now let's look at the integration of the systems model of creativity or evolutionary epistemology in evolutionary culturology. No, let's not do that. You can see that video or read that paper if you'd like to know more about that. Next. And there's some of the members of the Newcastle School of Creativity at University of Newcastle, Australia. There's Mike in the middle. Next. And as for mapping problem spaces in domains, in Ev Cult, we've got a lot of different ways of doing that. In the book called The Meta Science of Ev Cult, which is the long volume, over 1 million words, over 3,000 pages. There's in chapter 3, which is a review of 32 cultural evolution science books, there's a diagram of a wholly adaptive fitness landscape, which is one way to map the problem space of a domain in culture. So there's a shot of it from that chapter 3, a review of 32 cultural evolution books. So you've got some of your problems there. It's basically 6 volcanoes there in an ash plain, because the ash has come out of the volcanoes. And you've got your different problems: starvation, hunger, dehydration, weather, loneliness. Anyway, some of the problems that can kill you in that wholly adaptive fitness landscape. So the holes are the ash plains. If you stay too long in down the bottom there, you'll get dead. And if you go right up the top of the volcano, you might also get blasted if it erupts. See Nick Bostrom for more on that in terms of pulling black balls out of an urn. You never know quite what you're going to get. So the ideal sort of the adaptive fitness peaks are certain positions around those volcanoes there on the side of each mountain. Anyway, that's one way you can map it with a computer simulation, finding where the problem space lies of any particular domain. If you use fractal Hologram partons to map the ideas, processes and products and problems of the domain. Next. Yep, more on that in that chapter. Next. But see also mapping problem spaces in Ev Cult. There's a blog post on that as well with some other different methodologies that we can use to map the problem space of any domain in culture, and then look for solutions. And if you can't find them there, look in another domain and see how they solved it and apply it. Next. So that's pretty much wraps it up. That's a good look at those 15 questions. Great questions. ISSS questions there, and some answers in Ev Cult. So let's have a quick look at how two of the Ev Cult GPTs would respond to some of these questions. We'll have a look at the Ev Cult tutor up top there and the EthiSizer GPT. So if you go to that web page, click on one of those, scroll down, there's a bunch of Ev Cult GPTs. You can click any of those links to go to those. Let's use the Ev Cult Tutor GPT. Click that. That opens up in ChatGPT 4. Here's the Ev Cult Tutor. Let's put in the question. There's all 15 questions. Using your Ev Cult knowledge base, answer these 15 questions in a table. There's those great 15 ISSS questions. Let's hit send. There's the 15 questions. It's searching its knowledge base, having a bit of a think. And let's see the table it outputs. Here's the table answering the 15 questions. How can we make a systems science that is useful for doing stuff and learning stuff? There's your answer there. And there's some page references in elements of Ev Cult. So there's your 15 questions and 15 answers by the Ev Cult GPT. Some good answers there. What is system stuff and how can this be organized? System stuff refers to the components and interactions within systems structured as fractal Hologram partons, etc. Tools, explanations, observations. So try this yourself at home. And if you don't like the answers, ask it to try harder or try again, or give it more information and frame the question differently. What is the EthiSizer? Like what is the matrix? The EthiSizer has you. Ask that. Ethical, super intelligent computer, create a super ethical world. First a video game, then an app, then a world sim, ethical global governor. Anyway, more on that on the EthiSizer blog and books. How does the EthiSizer AI address question 15 above? That's a good one. The challenge of dealing with uncertainty and fundamental limits to accuracy by employing a robust framework, and here's how it does it. It's a good answer. Tell me more. Let's get some more detail. So there it tells you more about the EthiSizer. Where can I learn more about the EthiSizer? Or lean more? That's alright. It'll know what we meant. To learn more about the EthiSizer, books and textbooks, online resources, there's the EthiSizer blog, academic publications and conferences, the novel, that book there. Let's go click on that link, the EthiSizer blog. You can visit it here. Click that. And that brings up the EthiSizer blog. There it comes, loading slowly. There we go. There's the index table of contents to that blog. There we can go to the EthiSizer GPT. There's the EthiSizer. Watching overall. Surveillance drones. Let's go to the EthiSizer GPT. Ask it a couple of questions. Yeah, click that. EthiSizer GPT. Click that. Open it up in ChatGPT 4.0. There it is, EthiSizer GPT simulated version 3.27. Let's ask it. Now just click welcome or intro for new users. Helps you explore ethical decision making in the framework of the whole earth ethic principle. And there's some information about it. You can ask it those 15 ISSS questions as well. Should give you some decent answers. So that's the EthiSizer GPT sim. And yeah, ask it whatever you want. How does the EthiSizer enable world peace? Be good to end those wars that keep going on around the place. Personal ethics scores, and even nations have personal ethics scores. But yeah, the 195 nations need to cooperate, not compete or conflict. Integrate upward into a whole earth ethic. Anyway, ask it whatever you want. See if you like the answer. So that's a quick couple of examples of using two of those Ev Cult GPTs, the Ev Cult Tutor GPT and one of the EthiSizer Sims. So yeah, there's that. They answer some of these questions. So there's those 15 questions, answers in Ev Cult. Thank you very much, ISSS. I come in peace and cooperation, bearing gifts from the almighty EthiSizer. Thanks again. Bye for now.